Okay, guys, this is a very cool video interview. I think it was the first time we have this on the record, like where I really talk about how I build my team, how I build everything around globaltechbox.com, my mentality, my vision, and my insights into the local ecosystem, the Israeli system. I really hope you enjoy it. Also check out Lionstep. I did this interview with Claudia Winkler, who's the CEO and co-founder of Lionstep. I think it's really an interesting case what they're doing. So check out, here is the website and the logo will pop up somewhere here and we'll link it below, and check them out and enjoy the video.
Let's start with the first question. I think there are a lot of people that asked this already, but it's also interesting for our readers and listeners. Why did you start something on your own, Cédric?
I grew up here in Zurich, and then I moved to Israel. And when I lived in Israel for 7 years, literally all my friends and everybody around me had some kind of startup that they were working on. And I was so inspired by seeing all of these different initiatives of people trying to build the future that I really had this urge myself to also start something on my own. And this deep passion actually came from my childhood, when I was always, focused on getting the latest technology, always playing with the newest gadgets. And this urge of being at the edge and the forefront of the future led into me being part of these ecosystem by running these video series that I do. And this is really something that evolved over time. So there was no single moment where I said now I'm starting something on my own. It was this urge that came, that I at some point said now I am thinking of what I can do by myself, and this then slowly developed into the company and products that we do today.
Okay, well, great. Sounds very inspiring for others, I guess, too.
Yeah, it's very important. Many things, I wasn't planning on, and they just happened over time. So when there's one advice I can give people is start small, and then keep doing, and showing up is 99% of the success.
You were talking about passion and inspiration in your childhood, and you were talking about the ecosystem you were also living in, and was basically the reason why this urge developed. So what do you think? How innovative is our startup ecosystem in Switzerland, and are we strong enough to also develop that urge in others? Here in Switzerland?
I think Switzerland has a very, very good position to really become a leader in various verticals, whether that's cryptocurrency or deep tech or other kinds of industries. But we do have to be aware that there are other countries competing for the same spot too. So we can't rest on the success we had for the last 100 years with the financial sector. So we really have to stay innovative and keep building the companies of tomorrow. Having said that, Switzerland, is very, very highly positioned in education, where the education is set as a priority to make sure we have the talent of tomorrow. But again, something that is very important is to keep the talent within Switzerland, and then not having, let's say, this talent to different countries rather than staying in Switzerland. So the job market for these people have to stay attractive. Now, when I look back on my experience, I had, let's say, the differences between, let's say, Israeli entrepreneurs and Swiss entrepreneurs. There's a very clear distinction, and I always say it would be so nice to have this two extremes merge together and have a lot of synergies. But the story I always tell is when I was in Israel, a lot of times I was approached by entrepreneurs who had beautifully designed pitch decks, but literally not more than that. And these people, they said okay, let's take a leap of faith. We go to investors and see if we can raise the money with literally nothing beyond a pitch deck. And then, sometimes, they would fail, and many times they would fail, but they would try it very early on and see if it works. And then you have the other extreme in Switzerland. People are very hesitant of leaving their corporate jobs. They're very hesitant of giving up of their salary, which is totally understandable, and I'm not judging. I'm just saying that when I see the startups, which is very positive, is they're usually of very high quality, but sometimes they're waiting for too long to get to investors or getting to the customers very early on. So when you take of these two ecosystems, you take Israel, where they're running and they have, let's say, nothing but the motivation, versus Switzerland, where they maybe have this perfection To merge these two type of characteristics, I think would be really ideal for a flourishing ecosystem in Switzerland.
I was going to ask you what does the Swiss startup ecosystem is. So what I understand from you is to also be a bit more risk-taking, risk-seeking. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So where do you think could we start? What could we do? Because there needs to be at least some bigger development or movement that is starting this. So what does we as entrepreneurs can do to basically people into being a bit more risk-seeking?
Sure. I mean, like for us, I think from entrepreneurs' perspective, we have to build a community where everybody feels comfortable to ask question and being taken serious and get real answers. I don't want to have theory answers where, some university professors who have never done anything explain to me what to do. I want to know from you how you were able to solve the issue of accounting from your experience. I want to know from my other friend how he developed his first website as a landing page in India. I want to know how guys recruit from freelancing websites online. Those are kind of the practicality that I am sometimes missing. So when your question is how can we do that, is definitely from the entrepreneur perspective to really help each other and pay it forward without maybe immediately seeing what we get out of it besides the community. And now when you ask me as an ecosystem, I think people who have, let's say, an idea that is worthwhile pursuing. So it's still saying you have to look at the idea and making sure that the team is the right fit. But right now, the time it takes to really raise a first, let's say, seed round or a Series A round is way too long. So again, focus on quality, but still focus on speed also, so you can quickly see whether your idea has some basis to really grow big. And that has to be done much quicker than we have now. In the second step, these companies that raised money, in Switzerland by itself, also from an investor perspective, we don't see yet these big rounds, let's say, 5 to 10 million Series A rounds. It's still, 100K, 200K, maybe $1 million if you're a very big Series A round. But these big Series A rounds are still missing. And that's because the investor landscape is way too small. Investors are not taking the risks yet on these early stage companies like we see it in the Valley or we see it in Tel Aviv.
I also agree with you, and that's what you also do with your videos.
Yes.
And your work that you do. So thanks for that, Lisa, a lot.
Thank you.
So we're talking about or maybe also investors or pension funds missing out on some great things and some great startups in Switzerland. So what do you think are the most promising trends in Switzerland, and where do you see the most promising movement? We're talking about cryptocurrency, for example. How do you see those trends? What are your favorite trends?
It's very hard because, trends is always this question of how you analyze those trends. So there are research companies, they say okay, let's analyze how many companies do we have in the fintech space, how many do we have in the IoT space, and then you have, let's say, 20 in fintech and 10 in IoT, and they say, okay, there's a trend in fintech. I usually say we have to define the trends before there are numbers for it. So I would say, definitely when you look into deep tech that have some unicorns such as MindMaze, we have some artificial intelligence companies here like StarMind that are, kind of at the forefront with high valuations. And then on the other hand, you have the cryptocurrency with the Crypto Valley, Crypto Nation in Zug, or in Zurich with Trust Square, where they really try to give this base of fruitful place for companies to grow their blockchain projects into real companies. And I think that is definitely something, a race against time. Switzerland is definitely not the only nation that wants to become that leader. So we really have to be fast. But I definitely would say blockchain, we do have this advantage of trust where Switzerland is usually associated with trust in the financial sector. So I think we definitely have a certain advantage over other countries.
So let's get a bit more into personal detail. Do you have an idol, globally?
Or maybe I have to give you some background because it's a very kind of stereotype idol. But I very look up to Roger Federer, but not mainly because of his career in tennis, more his personality as a whole. I'm very focused on family. For me, family is is the highest priority next to health. And I feel whenever you read his interviews and you watch him, He always brings his family, which shows that he puts priority of being together with the family. But he also misses many tournaments to focus on his health and to focus on his body, making sure that he can play as long as possible. He's very into sustainable playing, not just playing for the sake of making money. And I think that's what fascinates me about his career. Number one, his age, for being so competitive at this age. And number two, how he was able to really stay away from all of scandals and is always focused on health and family beyond making a very successful career. And I think that's what's inspiring to me. So less the tennis, more like the way he approaches life.
Yes, the way he lives.
Yes.
No scandals. Yeah, personality. Also the health thing, I think, is very important, as you said, because you need to stay healthy, you need to stay fit. Also, your brain needs to stay fit in order to create something and to be successful and helpful for the others.
Yes, exactly.
So you didn't perceive a career in tennis or sports. You studied economics, from what I understood, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, I studied business and finance, so
yeah.
But close enough.
Why did you study business and finance? I mean, I did that too. Why did you study it, and where do you think that it serves you now?
I'm not sure if you're aware, but my long-term goal is I really want to also start investing in the most promising and most successful entrepreneurs in the future. So for me, I still see a value in academia where you get a base and a foundation of the basic concept of finance. The basic concept of business, and that helps me a lot. It helps me to understand what is supply and demand, what does it mean to have venture capital from a macroeconomics perspective, what that means. And that is like some concepts that unless you're very much into, let's say, YouTube tutorials and you know what to look for, you don't really get anywhere else than the academic world. And beyond that, I think we are really dependent on researchers, whether that's in biotech, in medications, or in various other forms of academia, in business also. Nevertheless, we need several aspects. We don't just need academics, we also need the practitioners. But I'm a really big supporter of academia to really understand from a research perspective where we're heading. And that's why I did it. That's why I did it.
Yeah, that's absolutely reasonable. But still, you also mentioned on your website that you started to code. You decided to go with PHP. So first of all, why did you start coding, and where we do the coding survey, and why did you decide to go with PHP?
As I come from the financial and business world, also during my studies, I was almost not exposed to any type of code. And when I started my first job, before I started anything connected to Global Tech Box, I realized pretty quickly that when the CEO talks to the CTO, they usually have very different type of languages. Now, I don't personally see myself as a coder, but for me it was very important to understand how developers think and how they are approaching problems. And that goes down to very practical things. So, when you are doing something yourself, whether that's a little Python or a little bit of PHP where you develop some website, building something is maybe, 20-30% of the time, but then debugging takes the majority of the time. And if you've never done that yourself and you come from a business world, you will say, why would you need debugging? If everything is already working, just one button doesn't work. When you have done this yourself, you really understand why sometimes the last line of code takes the same amount of time than the whole rest of the coding, and this is only something you understand when you once did it by yourself. So I don't see my personality as being like a coder, but for me it was very important to also understand what it means to be a developer. So for me it was more like a course that I took to get an in-depth, and for them they built it up so at the end the basics of PHP. So there was not an active decision for PHP. It was more like the course I took was PHP.
Do you think that the future leaders will have a background in finance and economics and will also be capable to code, or at least understand codes? Or will the future leaders, the successful leaders, will come out of the tech industry and learn a bit about accounting, finance, and legal stuff?
It's a very, very good question, and I'm thinking about it a lot. I have a little bit of a different opinion. I think in the long term, meaning like 10, 20, 30 years down the line, we all will be focusing on our strength only. So ideally, it's something that you're passionate about and it's your strength, which usually comes together. If you enjoy something really much and you do it a lot, you'll become very good at it. That's also how I deal with my team. So I always hire for passion. I always ask people like what they want to do in the next few years, and whether that's designing or developing or whatever it might be. So I don't look so much on skills only. Obviously, in the second step, they have to prove themselves. My strength is networking. My strength is managing a team of 20 people, but I'm very weak at writing. I'm not the best at coding. I'm definitely not the best at video editing. And those things will be outsourced to people. So you will have people whose strength it is to lead, but not necessarily to code. And then you have people whose strength it is to code, but not necessarily to lead. So I'm a big believer you have to, focus and double down on whatever you're strong at and good at.
You mentioned that it's very good as a leader also of 20 people to understand at least a bit of code and to understand what's going on behind the curtain. So in our current labor market, we have a problem of having too few people going into ICT and studying tech. What do you think could we do to also bring up that urge for tech a bit in other people, that urge for learning how to code?
Again, it's a very good question, but I'll give you the same answer. I think people have to do what they're passionate about. I remember a course I took at the University of St. Gallen that was in collaboration with the ETH, and it really opened my eyes because we came from the University of St. Gallen very focused on Excel and numbers, and they came from developing. And at the same way as we did an Excel sheet in our sleep, they coded a website in their sleep. And they had no idea about how to do a business model, and we had no idea how to do a website. And when you merge these different skills, then you have a very promising future. But again, I don't think you can spark someone so easily for something that they don't like to do. So you have to really see what people like and what they are good at and try to focus on that.
Okay, so we have to spark the passion for also understanding tech and maybe also working in a balance with business. What drives people like you to become an entrepreneur at this age? You said that it was your background. You grew up in this ecosystem, but there are also a lot of people that didn't have that opportunity to grow up in a very techy or very passionate ecosystem. Why do you think are a lot of young people nowadays drawn to the thought of being an entrepreneur?
There's different types of reasons, but I think us millennials, we really prioritize flexibility. We like to be everywhere and nowhere, so we like to be able to work remotely. We like to be flexible. We like to work on what we're passionate about, and that usually comes with the urge or with the reality that you have to probably do something by yourself. Because the moment you work for a corporate, this is usually not possible. These days you can do home office. Microsoft has, for example, a policy like that where you can almost always work from home. But I would say these type of companies are very rare still. So when you look at our age, let's say the millennials, I think we just like to do what we like to do and not what we are told to do. And that leads that entrepreneurship is probably something that is fashionable at the moment, and reality will show, who can actually make a business from it, because entrepreneurship at the end of the day is building the future, ideally with making money. So that takes some stamina and it takes patience.
And also bringing some value add to society.
For sure, yeah, that's a given. I mean, if you're doing something that no one wants, then you're losing out on revenue. It's not always easy to say what do people want. I mean, every time Apple releases a new feature or removes the headphone jack, you will read in all the newspapers how everybody thinks Apple is crazy. Bottom line is they're the most valuable company in the world, so I guess they know what they're doing.
Absolutely, they're great. So last question from us. Maybe also our readers and listeners are interested in maybe hiring you. So what would a company need to do to hire you? What should they offer you?
Well, someone recently told me I'm not employable. Like whatever like I want to get, I usually try to give to my team. So I think it starts with passion. I think people love to work with other people that are passionate and that are respected as human beings. And I think that's so much more important than the financial compensation. I see that so many times in my team, we try to give financial incentive to do stuff. And usually it's less successful than when we have, let's say, some kind of company retreat or team retreat or perks. Is usually much more successful than financial incentives. So for me, definitely something that if someone wanted to hire me, it's definitely like they had to hire me because it's a perfect fit for my interests. So startups, venture capital in that section. And number two, it has to be financially more lucrative than what I do right now. So definitely financial compensation is important. And third but not least is like the flexibility. So I know I cringe up myself when I think of like having to report to someone whether I take off an afternoon or not. And that's definitely one of the main reasons why I want to build something on my own, because I don't want to ask for permission whether I spend the afternoon with my wife and my kids and get a no from a boss that like tells me what to do. So like this flexibility is something that I give to my team. Is no one ever has to work if they don't want, and they have an unlimited amount of time of vacation. So no one ever gets a no if they want to take vacation. I always focus on communication. So someone who commits to certain tasks, I assume they will be able to deliver. And for me, much more important, they tell me, look, I'm sick at the moment, I can't work, and that's why I have to delay the deadline. Or they say, I just had a baby, I want to take off 2 months. Everything is totally okay as long as it's communicated. And that's what I would like also if someone hired me, that like they really respect the fact that I cherish family and I would like to focus and give priority to family, to wife and kids without having to worry about my job.
Very interesting. So we also, I guess, come back to that point where you said before that you have to create an environment, right? Everybody feels safe.
Yes.
I guess so. It's our startup ecosystem, and we also have to pursue that in our own company.
What's important to add is, in return, they get hard work. Like in return, you have me committed to your company where I know that like, okay, I can spend the afternoon with the kids, but when they're asleep, I work from 10 to 2 a.m. That's what you get. It's not like, okay, I take off 2 days a week and you don't hear and you don't see me. But like, I still get my work done. And I think that's the mentality that there should be. Like, you get all of this flexibility, but on the other hand, I expect dedication.
Two-sided trust.
For sure. You just ask me now, like what I would want, but like I think it's much more important. Like what does the employer get if they hire me? If they get a dedicated worker who really wants to get my tasks done at highest quality.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Cédric, for the insight.
You're welcome.
Go on and talk for hours.
Sure.
Very interesting. Very cool. I like your opinion about things, and I think they're also very interesting for our readers and listeners.
Yeah, maybe one more thing that just came to my mind about like financial compensation. I think it's so crucial that you try to think and build these relationships with the people, with my team members, and understand when there might be an urge for more money. As I said, like most of the people that I work with, they enjoy working with me because we have a goal, we have a vision, we have passion. But sometimes, you understand from conversations outside of work that like, someone wants to buy an apartment, someone wants to has a child, which usually comes with more expenses. So obviously they need more money. So like catching that before they ask for it leads to a situation where the team knows that like, yes, we have budget, yes, we have constraints, but we are human beings and we understand sometimes you have to get more money to be able to work. Not because not because you feel bad to ask for the money, because you're in a new life situation. And that is something that I really try to focus on, that my team can always come up to me and say, listen, Cédric, this month we need an extra €1,000. but like I'm happy to give it back to you or work more just because we want to buy an apartment. And that is something that I'm so happy to do, because I know like that gives the commitment that like, yes, okay, now you need more money. I'll figure out a way to give you that money, but like then we can build a life together and not just a business. The business is per se, I would say, quote unquote, easy, but to build a life is what I believe is real success in life, and not just have money in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I also think that being worried about financial situation is very, very harmful as well to your mental health and to your whole also physical health. So I think absolutely we have to support there and maybe sometimes read the mind of the people around us. That's true.
Very good. Okay, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And
thank you. Have a great
have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.